Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite animes. And today, before I start the review, I would just like to take some time off to thank Uruha Rusya for the work she's done and for the content that she's put out in the past few years as a VTuber. And when I learned the news that her contract with Hololive and Covercore is terminated a few days ago, I was extremely shocked. And that was on the same day when the whole Russia Ukraine thing happened. And I'm shocked still to this day. And it is sad that she's leaving, but I think my main concern is her mental health, her voice actress's mental health. I know that she might have made some mistakes, and I know that when she made those mistakes, she was probably in a lot of distress. And I know that there were a few other people at play that contributed to this terrible drama, but I just hope that her friends are going to be able to support her from here on out. So thank you very much, Uda Hadusya, and we'll remember you forever. But anyways, today I will be doing an anime review on Mushishi. And Mushishi is a manga written and illustrated by Urushibara Yuki, and then it is adapted into an anime by Artland Studio, and it is released in the late 2005 to mid 2006. Now, Mushishi is unlike any other anime I've ever seen in my entire life. Watching this anime is not easy because this anime is special. Not only is it a special anime, but it is also a special medium of art. This is one of those rare pieces of art where you cannot consume as fast as possible. Nowadays, people have the habit of binge watching shows and binge watching movies and binge watching animes, and I do that too. And usually, when I watch animes, I try my best to watch at most 4 episodes at a time because I don't want to, I want to watch as much as possible in a short period of time because I want to save time. But you cannot do that with Mushishi. So I watched episode 1 on August 8th of 2021, or I think August 9th. And yes, that is half a year ago. And after watching episode 1, I realized one thing. I should just stop. I cannot watch this the same way I watch other animes. Mushishi is not the type of anime you have to binge watch. This is the type of anime where you can only watch when you have free time, when your mind is relaxed, and it cannot be forced. You cannot force yourself to go through it high speed. No, 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 you can't do that. You must only watch it when you feel like you want to watch it. And so for months, I stopped watching Mushishi, and it's been hanging there in my watch list for a long time, and it looks really ugly. Until on November 24th, I continued watching Mushishi from episodes 2 until episode 5, and then I stopped watching on December 4th. And then I picked it up again on January 18th, and I watched episodes 6 to 12, and then I stopped to watch something else. And then recently on February 17th, I started watching episode 13, and then I basically just completed Mushishi like half an hour ago. So, watching this anime took me half a year, and rightfully so. This is the only way I could enjoy Mushishi. I mean, sure, this is an anime that you can enjoy if you want to binge watch, that's totally fine. But I feel like the optimal appreciation for Mushishi, the best way to appreciate this anime is to watch it as slow as possible, to take your time. Because every single episode is actually a short story. This is not a serial story. Out of all the animes I've watched, most of them are serial stories, meaning that the stories continue and accumulate. But Mushishi, it's not like that. The only constant thing for every single episode of Mushishi is the main character Ginko, who has white hair and only one eye, and the eyeball and the iris is green. And He is a Mushishi, and Mushishi is a kind of person who deals with mushi, which in Japanese means insects. But in this anime, in this story, it's a little bit different. Mushi is the most primal form of life, and only a few handful of people are able to see them. So, of course, we have bacteria, we have archaebacteria, we have it's been a while since I've studied biology, leave me alone. We have protista, we have fungus, we have animals, we have plants, and all these things are on the palm of your hand. And if you follow that palm all the way down to your elbow, and then down here, and then go to your heart, you will find the mushi. And yeah, this is basically the story of a mushishi, a person who is an expert on mushis, and since mushi can cause harm and illnesses, this mushishi can sort of mediate the issue. Now, there is something emphasized in the story, and that is mushi is not harmful. It is not a harmful organism. It wants to live just as much as a human being wants to live. And sometimes there will be conflict, sometimes there will be clashes, but it is unethical for the human being to kill the mushishi or kill the mushi, not the mushishi, because they want to coexist. And so mushishi don't kill mushi. They let them live and they mediate the situation. Every single episode has a somewhat different story. The story topics can go from about life, being about death, memory loss, farming, famines, plagues, illnesses, and sometimes even village politics. And every single episode ends somewhat differently. There are happy endings, there are sad endings, there are bittersweet endings, open ended or ambiguous endings. That being said, though, in my opinion, every single episode ended really, really well. Now, I'm just gonna put this out there. I dislike episodic series. I don't like TV shows and animes where every single episode just stands alone in and of itself and has no relevance with the previous episode or the next episode. I really, really dislike that. I like one big continuous story. But Mushishi made me appreciate this because I cannot imagine Mushishi being a serial story. I can only imagine it episodic because the stories are so small and you get to learn so much about life and about the nature of mankind and nature in general in just one short episode. And every single short episode reveals something different in a different perspective with a different style. And there's just something so beautiful about it. It's like a collection of vignettes of folk tales. And another thing I really love about Mushishi is that the quality of every single episode doesn't drastically differ from one episode to the next. In my opinion, they're all great. I cannot think of one single bad episode of Mushishi. Yeah, Mushishi is slow paced. Don't get me wrong, if you're a new anime watcher, if you don't even watch a lot of movies and TV shows to begin with, you're probably going to be bored. But as someone who has seen several art house films and has seen enough movies to appreciate slow movies and TV shows, Mushishi didn't bore me for one single second. I think the pacing of Mushishi is perfect for the eerie atmospheric tone that it's trying to achieve. Mushishi is basically like the anime equivalent of ambient music. Not all people are gonna like ambient music, but if you love ambient music, Mushishi is going to be a treat because it is some of the most mindful and soothing things I've seen ever. And yeah, some stories in Mushishi are even intricate enough to become full-length feature films. Episodes like The Traveling Swamp and The Empty Cocoon, and also the Sea Border episode. Oh my god, the stories are so emotionally charged and so poetic. They're powerful enough to be full length movies, but it is condensed into something simple, something to taste 23 minutes of nice visuals and nice music, and it's brilliant. Now let's talk about the technical aspect of Mushishi. Um, it is amazing. It is freaking amazing. I don't know why. The composition and the framing of Mushishi is some of the best I've seen in anime. Some shots in Mushishi reminds me a lot of Ozu, even though I've never actually seen a single Yasujiro Ozu movie. I'm sorry. I know I'm a film nerd, but I haven't seen one. What? But I've seen clips and videos, and some of the shots in Mushishi is so artsy and so layered and so rich that it just reminds me of like shots from Tokyo Story or even Late Spring. There's even a sprinkle of Tarkovsky in some of the shots here. And then let's talk about the music. Wow, the music is fantastic. This is some of the most relaxing anime music I've ever seen, but it's not just relaxing. I mean, if you want cheap relaxing music, just go to YouTube, type in free relaxing music, royalty free, and you can find 2 hour, 3 hour long playlists with cheaply produced, mindless, toothless, relaxing music. But no, the soundtrack for Mushishi is so much more intricate and dense. The piano theme is absolutely gorgeous. And then we have these more percussion heavy tracks where the percussion feels kind of tribal. You hear bits of reverb, and it just creates such a gorgeous atmosphere. It's amazing. It really transports me into the universe. I like the animation, it's really simple, and I also like the voice acting. I like the dialogues. Usually, there are a lot of cliche stuff when it comes to animes. You know, characters being like, huh, huh, huh. But in Mushishi, we don't have none of that. This is realistic. Mushishi is realistic. It is grounded, and it doesn't do any of these dumb anime cliches. There is no high-pitched lolly girl. There is no fan service. There is none of that. It is straight to the point anime. And again, I love it. I love the story and the premise of Mushishi so much. This is a beautiful anime to appreciate nature to, especially when we are living in a time now where the world environmentally is going through a crisis. Mushishi puts an emphasis on the balance of life, and not only human life, but life in general, humans' relationships with plants, animals, and other organisms, in this case, Mushis. And this is also one of those animes and one of those mediums of arts in general where it sort of makes me appreciate the little things in life. A rainbow in the sky, a beautiful green leaf, a nice flower. Like it just makes me appreciate small natural things. And man, it just really soothes my soul. Another thing I really love about Mushishi is that it is timeless and placeless. Other than being in Japan, not a single location name is mentioned in Mushishi. In fact, Japan isn't even mentioned, but we know it's Japan because they're wearing like traditional Japanese clothing, kimonos, and they're speaking Japanese. Duh. And the houses are Japanese style, so we know it's in Japan. But honestly, there's nothing else. There are no locations. We have no idea. If you want to draw a map of the world of Mushishi, you can't because we have no idea where anything is. All we know is that there are a bunch of villages, and that's it. I also really love that Mushishi is timeless. I mean, obviously it takes place in the Middle Ages, but it never specifies which period it's from. It's not Edo period, it's not Heisei. We have no idea because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when did it take place. It doesn't matter where do these stories take place. It doesn't matter. And because of that, all these stories, all these little episodes feel like folk tales and myths that your grandma would tell you when you're young before you would go to bed, which is exactly what Mushishi feels like because in Mushishi, in the beginning of every single episode and in the ending of every single episode, we would have narration coming from an old woman, which creates this feeling like a really nice and loving and very wise grandma is telling bedtime stories to us before we go to bed. Now, I'm not going to go through all 26 episodes, but there are highlights all over the place. Episode 1 is a great opener, it's a great tone setter, it's eerie, it involves ghosts, it's endearing, but also kind of strange and surreal. Episodes 2 and 3 deal with blindness and deafness, respectively, and how Mushishis cure them using Mushi's. Episode 4 is called Pillow Lane, and it features a dreamy, trippy sequence that's very awesome. It doesn't feel cliche at all. And then we have episode 5, The Traveling Swamp, really memorable. Episode 6 touches on religion in a very creative way in a remote village. Another thing I'd like to say is that most of the stories in Mushishi take place in random remote villages, which adds onto the folkiness of the story. Episode 7, where a man tries to steal a rainbow, that's another really memorable episode. And then episode 8, oh my god, episode 8 is one of the most poignant episodes in Mushishi, in my opinion, where a character lost his wife 3 years ago in a boating accident, and the man has been sitting by the lake to wait for his wife to return, even though deep inside him he knows that his wife is dead. And this episode is about letting go and dealing with loss and grief. Real deep stuff. Episode 11 ends off gorgeously with a giant snake sleeping on a mountain peacefully. Episode 12, probably my favorite episode on the entire series of Mushishi. I know there is a Mushishi sequel in the early 2010s, but I haven't seen that. But episode 12 is awesome because throughout the whole series, we learn nothing about the main character of Ginko. We only learn these little stories. But episode 12 is an origin episode. I'm not going to spoil anything else. You have to see it for yourself. Episode 14, Inside the Cage, is a disorienting, tragic episode that I really love with a very creative premise of being trapped in a forest, and wherever you go, you end up in the same spot. Episode 16 starts off with the main character Ginko referencing a poem by medieval Chinese poet Meng Hao Ran or Mang Hou Yin. And I've never seen a movie or a TV show or an anime make a reference to Chinese poem. This is a first, and I'm incredibly impressed. Episode 21 is, for some reason, really action packed and creepy. Even though it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, it's still very surprising, and it's still really great. And then we have episodes that deal with other Mushishi, like a Mushishi family, a Mushishi bloodline on episode 20, with a really just absolutely gorgeous and emotional scene where a girl tries to use her chopsticks to pick up words and pull it on and put it back on a scroll. Beautiful scene. And then episode 24 is about another Mushishi, one who is not as bright as Ginko. Episode 25, Ginko finally visits the city, and even though he visits the city, it doesn't feel like a very busy, bustly episode. And then we have episode 26, the last episode. And before watching episode 26, I was wondering, like, how on earth will Mushishi end off the season? Like, this is an episodic story. So the final episode is not going to be this epic crossover, right? So how are they going to end it off? Are they just going to end off on another story and that's it? Wouldn't that be a little anticlimactic? But no. They managed to find the perfect ending for Mushishi. It's, to me, episode 26 is almost like an epilogue, but there's something so subtle and so poetic about it. Because throughout the first 25 episodes, we're always following Ginko. But on episode 26, Ginko still shows up, but as a child in the first half. And we sort of see the situation in another person's perspective with Ginko in it. And it just goes to show humanity and their strong bonds despite being separated by mountains and seas and living in a world without Google Map and social media. So, yeah, absolutely beautiful. And we also don't have narration from the old woman in this episode. We have narration from another man. So it makes this finale ultra special. So, yeah, I highly recommend this. I highly recommend Mushishi. This, I've never seen anything like it before. This is one of the most beautiful, gorgeous, and poignant pieces of art I've ever seen in my life. And it functions so differently from anything else I've ever seen. Watching Mushishi is like having fever and feeling sick while it's raining outside of your bedroom, but in your own bedroom, you're drinking a bowl of hot chicken soup and it just soothes your soul and warms your heart. Mushishi has healing powers. So, yeah, I love every single episode of it. Feeling a 10 out of 10. So, have you watched Mushishi from 1 to 10? How much? Rate it, like it, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching. My next review is either going to be Attack on Titan Final Season Part 2, or maybe if I have time before that, I will watch Mushoku Tensei Season 1 Part 2.